Hi there, folks. Simon here. This is the January 2023 Beginner Tag Tournament Semifinals match between Tones and Adelta. I am under the weather, so my voice sounds a bit weird, but we're going to get through this. So, this is played just like every other Beginner Tag Tournament match in this tournament. It is played on a 6x6 board with 15 minutes on the clock and a 10-second increment, meaning that 10 seconds gets added to the clock after every turn you take. These are played with 0 komi, and if you don't know what komi is, it doesn't matter because it's not played with it. So don't worry about it. And this is the semifinals. Whoever wins this tournament will go on to face Climace in the finals here because he has already advanced. So we will be seeing either adelta or Tones move on into the finals of this tournament. So exciting, exciting stuff here. And I think we are good to go, jumping right in to game one of this 2-game match. All right, and we see the first move played over at e6, which is a very interesting and unconventional opening move. You typically want to be placing your opponent in the corner, but Tones does not do that. He places adelta at e6 instead. And then Tones going, instead of for maybe a knight's opening here at b3 or at c2, not going for that center control close at c3. Going to go the opposite end, which is very interesting and sort of plays into black having an opening advantage here. White, however, playing immediately that capstone. Now, this is an interesting spot for a capstone. I would say that it might be a touch early based on what we're seeing, but it could also work out pretty well for Tones at the same time. This is played in a position where this white capstone cannot be isolated because no matter what black does here, white will be able to capture onto one of these flat stones if that is what they want to go for. However, black now drops their capstone, which I think is probably a pretty decent play. I would have thought maybe to drop it at d3 instead of up at d5. That way that capstone's a little more centrally located, but I see what they're going for with this. They're trying to make it so if white captures down onto e4, for example, black can fill in and maintain this line they're going for. It can also cut down and mess up white's ability to really connect to anything. This capstone might just get isolated. If white does capture down, black captures down, and suddenly the white capstone is isolated. White now changing gears, playing off here at a4. Now this is an interesting play, and this just forces momentum. That's what it's doing. Because white is now has this momentum in this horizontal direction and also the vertical one at the same time. Black is playing down at d3 to sort of counter that a little bit, in that they can cut off the momentum on this side. And white, if they decide to build, for example, at a3 here, black can play at a2 to cut off the momentum again. So black's in a pretty solid position, playing very defensively right now, but playing very smart in this defensive mode that they're going for. Able to just place flats to cut off what white is doing, not really having to make any captures that they would not particularly want to make. So yeah, good flat placements, good cap placement from black so far, able to really cut off what white is going for. White does play at a3. Now, will black play at a2 to cut that off, or go for their own vertical threat, potentially? I feel like, okay, a5 is a little bit different, but that works better, I'd say, than the a2, because now a5 works for black's horizontal at the same time. However, it does give white the opportunity to build out around this and at the same time work for their horizontal threat. So both players placing very well, working towards multiple directions at the same time, which is what you want to do in tech in order to keep these threats coming. You want to be building in multiple directions and keep your options open. So we're seeing that now. White is building for that horizontal. Black came down with a capstone, and I feel like that was a little premature. I think black probably should have placed another flat at c5 here and waited for another turn before making any moves like that. And potentially that would have been coming up with d3 to cut that off. That would have been a threat. I feel like that capstone coming down from d5 was a mistake. Now white is able to just play at c5. This works for the horizontal and the vertical threat at the same time. It really, really is a strong move to be able to play at c5 there. Black playing down at c3, probably ready to come up onto c4 here. Really wants to cut that off because that's sort of a linchpin position. White may decide to play at a2, may decide to play at d5. May even decide to play at b3 if they want to be a little bit more cautious. The reason b3 would be a little more cautious is it would give a little bit more substance to this area, build this citadel out. It wouldn't be able to retake c4 or anything, but you would be able to have a little bit more influence in this part of the board. But the immediate threats would be a2, d5, or c6. Does play a2, got the vertical threat going. This is going to probably result in c3 plus. Though potentially b5 minus as well. Oh no, the capstone comes left. So white plays immediately b6, renewing the threat. c5 can come left. So black has to defend against this threat here. I feel like the move here is probably to bring the capstone left, which is what they go for. Um, White can't immediately renew this threat anymore. And now black is working towards this horizontal in a much more established way. Black playing at c4 or b4 is pretty good. C4 is pretty decent there. Yeah, this is looking a lot better for black now. I feel like it was a bit of an issue at first. Um, once that capstone came down instead of another move being played like c5, things got a little shaky for black and white got the upper hand. But now I think black is in a better position now. But yeah, here this after this move of d5 minus, that's where things shifted into white's favor. After playing c5, this was then very much white was in a much stronger position and black was down. So now we're seeing white playing up at a6. Again, this is not a threat. Uh, Black should probably play here at b3. This works for that horizontal line, but also gets another flat here to be able to come left or something to mess up this vertical line that white has. Just another piece of that defense. Like b3 or c4, but I think b3 is a little bit more defensive there. In the chat, we're seeing some folks say that c4 is what they want to play. I like b3 a little bit better. Does go for the b3 place. So this is not a threat for black, but it's getting close to one. Now, white could decide to ignore their vertical connection and place up at c6 and go for the horizontal here. They could decide to take c5 left. They could decide to take a6 minus. They could even decide to take b6 minus. All of those would be attack threats for white. But no, they decide to preemptively drop that wall. Now I think here, as black, you probably want to drop a flat at d4. They're just really hoping to cut off this line, but a flat at d4 really fixes that, I'd say. It makes it so it's not that big of a deal, because once d4 is dropped, white comes up with the wall, and then black just drops another flat at c4. It works out pretty well, to be honest. So yeah, I think d4 makes a ton of sense here. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Adelta does know Aliano 2 and perhaps has gotten a bit of coaching from him, though he doesn't seem to like that c6 placement. I don't like the c6 placement too much either. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I guess it is going for sort of a vertical line. Yeah, that could work. It's also protecting against white eventually making a vertical. I would have preferred probably a d4 placement myself, but that might have gotten this capstone involved. Although the capstone was in a good position to start going for the horizontal up above, this c6 placement does kind of stop that from happening. White's not going to be making any more horizontal threats up above here anytime soon. They would first have to play at d6 and d5 in order to make that happen. The b2 placement from white, I think that's mainly built to cut off black's ability to go for something with the b3 stone. Like a horizontal, they want to be able to bring that flat stone up. But now black has the opportunity to drop either at c2 or d4, and that works out just fine. Either one. Now c2 wouldn't be a threat, d4 would be, so d4 now requires immediate action from white, probably with d3 or d2 plus, bringing this wall up onto d2. But if that happens, black places at c4, and then white probably brings that capstone down onto e4, effectively destroying this whole horizontal line. But then maybe black plays it at d6, or maybe plays at c2. Kind of like d6 better, though, after all that. But first, we got to see what white's response is going to be. This is a threat from black, so white does have to respond to it some way. They don't even have to make a capture. They could just place at f4, but I wouldn't recommend that. I'd probably bring that wall up. Oh, brings the capstone down. Black can now place at e3 to continue the threat. Hmm. I don't think they'll want to play at e3. That probably just invites that wall to come up. Maybe they'll play at d5 or d6. Or maybe even f6. f6 actually might be the best play here. Unless you want to start with e3 first, but yeah, f6 might work. I like f6 because it goes for this horizontal, and black can build for the horizontal with the d6 or with the d5. But instead going to be playing down below with the c2, which the vertical I think might be slower. White just dropping a flat at c1 to block that. Black places at b1. Not yet a threat, but is one in about one move. But will black make that move is the question. I wondered if instead of making a capture over here, ooh, instead the wall comes left. This is where we may see the e3, but no, we see the c4 instead to build this citadel, protected a little bit against this wall. That e3 is still available to make a threat. Now the d6 and f6 are a little bit stronger. It's looking pretty good for black. White still has the ability to bring c5 left to mess with this horizontal connection and also make their own threat. It's not particularly strong. They can also bring a6 minus to do the same thing in a little bit stronger way. But they're reserving that because they know that's not going to last long. It's a tough one for sure. So white coming left with that capstone. Black is still able to drop at e3 to make that threat. But will they is the question. They do bring e3 down. This creates that road threat. White brings that wall up immediately. This cuts off that whole horizontal road down here. However, black can still build up at d6 and f6 to go for that threat. Instead, shifting gears for the vertical, I guess. I don't know about that. But could also be going for the horizontal with this as well. Could be playing at d2 to come up with b2 to go around this wall. I do still really like d6 though. D6 seems really strong. But what he wants to do is he wants to play at d6 and then do c4 plus. And so if he does d6 and then, or she, I think, if black does d6 and then c4 plus, you've got a threat vertically here and a threat horizontally here. Sure, you've got the linchpin of b6 just being able to come down and cut off both threats at once. But yeah, it's nice to get a double threat going. That is a couple moves out, though, and there's a lot that white can do to mess that up. White could, for example, play at d6. Go for that horizontal line up here. And mess with black's horizontal line up there. White could also bring a6 minus and make that vertical attack threat finally. Also looking at white potentially playing d2, but I don't know that that really helps. But does go for the d2, looking like a horizontal line at the bottom of the board for white. That doesn't seem too bad. I do like black playing d6 here, though. It seems like a really strong move to play. D6 followed by c4 plus. Yeah, so d6 is dropped. Looks like that's what's going to happen here. And like I said, c4 plus would create this horizontal and this vertical line. So white would have to stop it by capturing on b5. Or throwing this wall stack up onto c5. Either of those would work. Here, it's tough to say what white should do here. White could continue building at e3, trusting on their ability to cut this off with the wall or the b6 down, and then continue to build this horizontally below to do that. That might be a little risky though, walking a fine line, potentially getting trapped into attenuate. They are going to go for it though, pushing their luck, playing at e2. I think this is where we're going to see c4 plus happen. It's going to create that bi-directional threat. Black not taking a move just yet, though. Which I find interesting because the c4 plus is a pretty strong move. Okay, does make the threat. This e3 minus is available too to cut off anything that white starts building over here. So that's not a big deal to deal with. So now we've got these two threats, both the vertical by c2 left or the horizontal by placing at f6. So I think there are two moves that cut off both of these. That's one of them. The other one was b6 minus. So that wall comes up. Black can now play at c3 to go for this horizontal line. And I really like the c3 placement, to be honest. I think it's a good move. It goes for the horizontal. It builds this citadel-ish formation. Yeah, it just seems really good to drop a flat there. In the chat, they look like they're saying f3 is better because it prevents the positive +3 flat count differential move. But I don't think you want to be making that move regardless, because black fills in at c4 and then renews that exact same threat you just stopped, forcing you to make the b6 minus. So yeah, I think c3 is fine here. You don't need to worry about the flat count differential move there. c3 is probably better. Adelta taking their time here. Does drop at c3. This is now a horizontal tag threat. Placing at f3 would be a road. White has to stop that. One of the ways they can stop that is by placing a flat at f3. Or they can make a capture like e2 plus. Or they could spread this wall stack down, but I don't think that's good because black just renews with c5 and they're back where they started, except in even a worse position. White could bring this c5 stack left. Could bring the capstone left. No, capstone left doesn't fix it. Capstone down stops it. I think I would probably... Ooh, capstone down is the move that white goes for. What is the play here from black? Do you just fill in at d4? Feels tempting to fill in at d4. It's not an immediate renewal of the threat or anything, but it's not bad. d4 followed by d5 is another bidirectional threat. It would be a vertical down here and also a horizontal up here. That would take 2 moves, however. In the meantime, white could play c2, c1 plus and make this horizontal threat. I don't know. I don't feel like it's too bad for black still. I still really like the d4 placement, to be honest. I think that's a good way to go. d4, d5. Maybe d5 first? No, I think d4 first is better. Yeah, I would say d5. Oh, but no, instead we see b3 minus, which was really surprising. Yes, that's a vertical tack threat, but that is creating a liability here. So black would win any sort of capture war here. That makes things tricky, though. What if this capstone comes left or c1 comes left? Either of those are possibilities. Oh, in the chat saying you could also bring up this wall stack. Yeah, that would also work. But no, the capstone comes left. Does black just fill in at b3 here to renew the threat? If you fill in at b3 to renew the threat, white's capstone might come further left, but then it'd have a lot of... It would have 5. It would be a full stack of 6 here. And you bring that whole thing down, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it, so you'd have to leave some behind. That makes that tricky. Tricky, tricky. I don't know, I feel like b3 is still pretty good here. Yep, b3 is played. And that capstone comes left. I don't think you want to be playing at c3, but you might just go for the c3 placement. I feel like c3 is fine because this stack has so many opposing flats in it. Yeah, this is where this wall stack probably needs to move, but the capstone comes down. Oh, that's problematic. Because now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So no matter what, this stack is going to have to leave black flats behind. So white will not be able to move this stack and leave a white underneath it. I think here you want to be playing at d4 or d3. Probably d3. d3 seems better because it makes that horizontal threat. But fills in at b3. I don't really see the point of b3 here because now white's going to play at f2 and then you bring e3 minus, but that messes you up. Instead of being able to play d3 to make a threat, you're going to have to go around and go up at d4, d5. Because b3 is an immediate horizontal road threat. Or sorry, d3 is. But but black plays b3 instead. But yeah, f2 here for white is tack. But if white plays f2 and black does b1 right, that makes this vertical threat. But e3 minus does a much better job of cutting off the threat. And it keeps white's capstone more pinned because white's capstone has to leave behind black's here, so they can't go left or right. Yeah, I think bringing e3 minus is down is probably the move. Maybe b1 right, but yeah, b1 right does work here. I don't know. I feel like d2 left is going to happen. No! Whoa, what was that? Okay. White wall comes all the way down. That was an interesting play. Yeah, you got to spread right with c2, 1, 1. So 2c2 right, 1, 1. To stop this, because this is a road threat, being able to spread up with the wall. Comes down instead with e3? I don't understand that move. at all. Now I guess black plays c5. Because no threat right now for white, so black probably just plays c5, right? Little confused by that exchange. Really surprised by not doing 2c2 right 1-1. Did I miss something? 1-1. Yeah, it's not like they could make a threat there. But e3 minus happens, and the wall comes up, retrieves both of these double stacks of black's flats, which would have been a great, powerful move. But now I think black needs to drop at c5. We also looked at black is now down a minute from white. Okay, black drops at f6 instead. Might be a bit stronger in positioning here. So this is now attack threat for black. White drops a wall. Now black could come up with the capstone here to make a threat. But I don't think they want to do that at this point. They could also come up with b5. I feel like black almost threw this game away with a couple of the last moves here. They were in such a strong position, and now it seems like white has so much influence on this board. White's position down here is so strong. Once they cut off black's ability to renew these threats, white plays down below at e1 and such, and starts to go for this this horizontal down below. And black drops a flat here instead of a wall. I feel like a wall would be really, really good there to be able to come up and keep black from retaking with their own wall. Yeah, this is a problem. Now white has attack threat. Black's going to have to stop that somehow. They could decide to bring this up. Now the wall probably comes right down to capture on a c2. Would still have enough to make a drawbridge threat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, could even bring this white flat along with them, but able to drop it behind as well and move up or down to reveal that white piece. So if white is free to make e3 minus at some point, that is basically a guaranteed win. But adelta's down to 15 seconds on the clock. Gonna have to play very quickly. Black comes right. This is now attack threat for black, able to smash that wall for the road. But playing on very, very little time here. I think you may see b6 minus. b6 minus would be a threat for white and also stop this threat from black. Instead, the wall comes left, which also works the same way. But now black is able to smash this wall here on c2. Ah, it was a double purpose capstone move to be able to smash. That's why they renewed there. Now black's going to bring down and smash on c2. This is attack threat. Black's has to smash here. It's their only play. They make the smash. This is now a threat in the vertical direction. Oh, it's a strong play from Black on such low time. Black's able to spread up. The only move White has is to drop a wall at c5 or move this one. So they dropped the wall. Black comes up. Oh, man. Now, White can try to win a capture war onto this stack, but they're not going to win it with this capstone here. Black's in a really good spot, but they're really low on time, so they got to make whatever move they make each time it's their turn very quickly. But Black is now suddenly in control again after that move. Coming that capstone right to smash this for the road threat, but also be able to smash that stack, that was a really, really, really smart move. A really smart play to be able to set that up so you could threaten the road one way, knowing that if they stop your road, you'll be able to come down and smash. That was a really smart play. Now, White finally down below a minute on the clock. Again, they do have 10 seconds added to their time after every turn they take. White brings that capstone to the right. This is now a threat from White. Black didn't see it. White can win here. Black moved the capstone left. White takes it. Oh, the low time got to the better of them. They didn't realize, they played too quickly, did not realize that White was making a threat by bringing that over here. And instead, Black spreads that capstone left, wanting to spread down, but missed the road threat. Oh man, that's got to be heartbreaking. But Black was firmly in control of that game. The move here would have been to spread something left here onto a2. That was the only thing possible, really, was to move some of this. White wouldn't have been able to spread all the way. They would have had to leave behind something and then spread down. Black would have been able to bring that capstone down. It wasn't Tinue or anything, but man, Black still had a lot of fight left in him in that game. Unfortunately, the low time caused mistake to be made. But congratulations to Tones for winning game 1 of this semifinals match in the January 2023 Beginner TAC Tournament. Thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be out right here on playtac.com or over in the Discord server playing asynchronously. You can play all sorts of people on there, maybe even people in this tournament. But lots and lots of great TAC resources out there, so check that out. And until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.